Please rise. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence for the sick and the handicapped, recently departed, the military personnel of our community. Thank you.
Roll call, please. Mr. Henderson? Here. Mr. Petroselli?
Yes.
Mr. Colosimo? Here. Mr. Gallarducci?
Here.
Mr. Verducci? Here. Mr. Tushelsky? Mrs. Rowley? Here. Mayor Copeland? Here. Solicitor McDermott?
Here.
Engineer Brett?
Here.
I'm Joe Cowler. Chief King?
Here.
Chief Castain?
Here.
And Director Miller?
Here. Okay, thank you, Joe. We have a couple of professional presentations this evening that we're going to lead off our meeting with. First, Auditor Mark Kernley, our CPA, is going to discuss our 2021 audit.
Thank you, board members, for having me here this evening. Just wanted to go over the results of our audit of the borough for calendar year 2021. As you may or may not know, the borough is required to file this financial information, the numbers anyway, with the Department of Community and Economic Development. That's done earlier in the year. But in addition to that, we like to give our boards a maybe more in-depth audit report that breaks down the number in maybe a more user-friendly fashion than is boilerplate in that report that goes to the DCED. So in front of you this evening, I've set a couple pieces of correspondence. One is the actual thick audit report itself with all of the numbers in. But for the sake of this evening's meeting, for the sake of council, I have a letter dated for this evening that I'm going to use as the focal point of my presentation. If you'd be kind enough to follow along. And if you have any questions as I go through it, please feel free to ask. It was the top page inside the front cover of the audit report. And the letter that I'm talking about, halfway down the first page, has the wording General Fund Balance Analysis. So that's the one I'll be referring to. As I normally do with my boards, I first talk about probably the biggest and most important fund, the main operating fund here at the borough, which is the general fund. So on page 1, I give you a 5-year history of the ending fund balance. That's the reserve that you have moving forward into each succeeding calendar year. So you can see the 5-year history of the ups and downs with regard to this particular fund. For the year ended 12/31/2021, you can see that the fund balance had an ending number of $1,468,512, which was a decrease of almost 15%. But the main reason, as I highlight under that, so the board understands, the main reason for that decrease was not necessarily money flowing out of the borough, but money being prudently set aside in your capital improvement fund, which was from one fund to another pot of money of that $425,000. So if you didn't have that transfer, you would have shown a deficit with regard to the general fund, but nevertheless, money kept within the borough. On the top of page 2, in our industry, there's an organization called the Government Finance Officers Association. And one of the questions we get a lot is, Mark, what's an appropriate fund balance that we should have? And the GFOA has looked at this over the course of the years, not only for boroughs, cities, townships, school districts, any governmental type organization. And they seem to feel that an objective, and this is merely just a goal to obtain, is to try to have set aside in your fund balance, at least on average, 2 months worth of general fund expenditures. So when you look at the top of page 2, I do the math for the members of council. And for you, 2 months is about $620,000 or 19% of budget. So that's the goal. Now, it's whether you exceed that or not is up to each individual municipality. You can see that as of 12/31, your fund balance, and it's always measured as a percentage of your budget. Your unassigned fund balance is about 44% of the 22. So in other words, that's a healthy general fund balance, and it exceeds their objective or their target goal for the type of level of fund balance you should have. In keeping with the general fund, down at the bottom of page 2, again, I just give you a 5-year history of your revenues. And again, you can see the revenues of the very bottom for 2021, and just a slight increase in total revenues over calendar year 2020. I do the same thing on the top of page 3 with general fund expenditures. Again, we want to just compare, although this is a 5-year history, if we just want to compare the last 2 calendar years, at the bottom you can see there were excess expenditures over the prior year of almost $690,000. But below that, I point out to you the 3 main areas where the expenditures increased. One is the one we just talked about, which is the majority of this increase, the $425,000 transfer to the capital improvement fund. So even though that money stays within the borough, it's still considered an expenditure of the general fund. And in addition to that, there were some increased costs in the area of public safety and public works, and I just cite the areas there. All of those 3 items in particular were responsible for that increase in overall general fund expenditures for the year. In the middle of page 3, I just take a look at how council did in their budget that they had for 2021 versus their actual. Again, keeping with the general fund. First bullet point, actual revenues exceeded budgeted revenues by almost $164,000. Actual exceeded budget, which is where you want to be. In 2 of the main areas, real estate taxes in total exceeded budget by about $145,000, and then your RAD funds, the sales tax money, exceeded budget by almost $38,000. In the back of the audit report, in that thick audit report, when you get a chance, or if you've looked at it already, there's a section that I always call to the attention of my board members. It's a detailed budget versus actual. In here, I'm just giving you summary numbers so you get a general idea of how you did budget versus actual. But in the thick audit report in the back, there's 2 schedules. At your leisure, Schedule 1 is detailed revenues versus budget, and Schedule 2 is detailed expenditures, actual versus budget. So again, if you want to see a little more in-depth on a line item basis, how did we do at budget versus actual, that's where to look in the report. Second bullet point that I was just talking about expenditures. Actual expenditures exceeded budget by about 421. So actual exceeded budget, but as I keep saying, that mainly was a result of that transfer out of the general fund to the capital improvement fund. And I note for you the pages that I just mentioned to you where there is a more detailed budget versus actual comparison. And then at the bottom, for the main departments here at the borough, in summary, not in detail, but in summary, at the bottom of page 3, how did we do budget versus actual? And you can see general government, police, public works, and then overall insurance and employee benefits. You see how much you budgeted, you see what the actual is, and whether it was favorable or unfavorable. Going to page 4, results of other funds that you have. In addition to the general fund, obviously you have other, as I like to call them, pots of money that you are required to maintain separately for particular restricted purposes. And I highlight for you how those particular funds did for the year. Liquid Fuels Fund, Capital Improvements Fund, your Garbage Fund, Sewer Fund, and Police Pension Fund. That last bullet point, just to note, you can see the Police Pension Fund increased about $653,000 for the year, about 12%. Most of that were unrealized gains on market investments. That might not be the case over the last 3 days, but it was in 2021, so we'll see how that goes. And below that, members of council, just recommendations that I give most of my municipalities simply because of the size of the staff, not anywhere near what you'd find maybe in corporate atmosphere, just you have a smaller required staff level. So these are just comments that I make each year. One comment, though, that I just wanted to briefly discuss is at the bottom of page 4, where I talk about federal funding. Because the borough and all of my municipalities, to one degree or another, receive a lot of federal funding through the ARP program and other programs. If you receive and expend over $750,000, and the key is to expend that money, you have to do not only the type of audit that I do, but you also have to do a compliance audit on top of that. And I believe probably in 2022, that's going to be the case for the borough of Bridgeville. In 2021, you received the monies, but didn't expend that level of federal monies. In 22 or forward, Joe, you would know better than me, that's when that compliance is going to come into play. The point of my first bullet point here is simply to say the board is the compliance requirements, the umbrella with which we would audit those monies requires you to have policies, certain policies to be in compliance with these federal standards. And there's about 7 or 8 of their standard policies. And I have boilerplate copies of those that I'm going to share with the borough so that if you don't have them in place already, you can start to work the borough Bridgeville's name into those policies and kind of tweak it to what you have here at the borough so that you're in compliance with those regulations. Yes.
Do you handle that audit then, or
Yes.
is somebody from the?
No, we do. We do a
You
number
would
of
handle that audit as
Yes.
well?
So, and the other comments just on page 5 and at the end of 6 are just general comments, again, that I may feel
Mark, I have a couple of questions.
Yeah.
Again, just before you move forward. You had the segregation of duties, and I'm sure that's kind of boilerplate, but do you have any other suggestions? I'm sure you've seen how they operate and how they handle things. Like me being in banking, I understand the whole dual control of things, but as you said, as a small staff, it's kind of hard to kind of do that other than, I don't know, have somebody else, a volunteer or somebody from council get deeply involved, which, to be honest with you, then you don't have any oversight.
Right, exactly. The key is, as you said, it's just the number of staff, and every municipality suffers from that. Municipalities of your size, you're a fairly good sized municipality, but you only have so many individuals in the business office. So based on the number of individuals you have, I think you do a good job with what you have in terms of trying to segregate those duties. To truly segregate them, and I'm not sure that's overly possible. When we do an audit, we do what I'll call a regular audit for the sake of this meeting. Our job with regard to internal controls in the sector is just to get an understanding of it. You can have an audit or a report that's specifically dedicated to internal controls, you can get into it more deeply. But on the surface, really the only other avenues you have, as you mentioned, is where members of council get involved with the oversight of the daily functions with signing off on various reports. That offers somebody independent of the business office. And a lot of times that's difficult to do. And I know you get financial reports when you go and you see the information, which is good, and which is what most of my municipalities do. You're not too far different from them. But I would say in your business office, probably as best as you can do, those duties are segregated. You could make some minor changes, but that may involve, as you said, a volunteer or somebody on the board having the time to oversee certain of those functions to facilitate what I'm saying would be maybe a better layer of segregation of duties.
Something with banking, of course, that you're a volunteer.
Can we strike that question? Okay. I was just comparison from, I know that you do a lot of different municipalities, and just curious my comparison from others like our size. And to be honest, I couldn't think of anything. I mean, we're reviewing the checks, of course. We're reviewing some of those different things, so it would make sense. I mean, for disbursements coming out. So then the other things, they collect minimal cash, so it's, they struggle to see any extra things that we can do.
So I don't see this much with my municipalities, and you may know more about this than I do. But, some of my school districts have that there's a fraud prevention at the bank level, where they have a program where they provide the bank with a list of approved vendors and dollar amounts by which, if anything is not on that approved vendor list or is above a dollar amount, Joe would get a red flag on his computer, would pop up to say that this is not within what you told us we should be approving. And I'm not sure what that option costs, but I know it's available. Off the top of my head, I can just think that I have 2 school districts whose depository has those services.
So you're referring to a deposit pay system, or?
That may be the name, and I can get back to Joe with the specific names of what that is called. But I don't think you have that in play, Joe. But it's something you may want to consider, and then look at the cost. And the cost may be minimal because that's your depository.
That's very detailed. I really appreciate it. I do have one more question, sorry, on the bank. I was reading over your fiscal statements, and you had made a comment in them in regards to the FDIC insurance or the Act 72. Now, am I reading it wrong that you're saying that you don't see the additional coverage on the funds, or you're just acknowledging that the coverage is based on FDIC, but also the Act 72?
Yes, what we do is, to that specific point, as you know, that you're only covered in total for all your accounts with the first 250,000. So what we do is we send what's called a collateralization confirmation directly to your depository saying, have you properly collateralized the Borough of Bridgeville's funds beyond that $250,000 with the Federal Reserve? And then they send a letter back saying, here are our deposits, because they're required to do that with every governmental organization. They send us a letter with a total dollar amount.
Did the bank not do that, or, because that bank is not the one employer that I work for, and I do know it's all covered, but I'm just, in your write-up, I couldn't grasp, were you saying?
No, I'm not saying that they did not do that. I'm just saying this is what happens with the money over
Okay.
250,000.
You were just stating the fact that this is the process you go to make sure that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Mark.
Okay, appreciate it.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Next up, we have Mike and Randy from Traffic Planning and Design to talk about our active transportation plan.
Good evening, my name is Mike Mundry from Traffic Planning and Design. Randy's actually on the Zoom call, but he's not going to chime in unless I totally mess something up or you have a question that I can't answer. But I appreciate Randy taking time to be on the Zoom call tonight. So tonight we're going to talk about the active transportation plan that the steering committee adopted. The funding primarily came through Allegheny County. The purpose of the plan is to provide a long-term planning blueprint to enhance safety and mobility of all road users in Bridgeville. We had a lot of interaction with the public and the steering committee, and one of the great things that we found out about was all the desirable locations here in the borough that people want to walk and bike to. But then there were times where not all the residents felt that every one of those locations was the, let's call it the easiest to get to biking or walking to. As we moved through the process, the steering committee wanted to focus on, I call them infrastructure type projects, some very basic, some more challenging and longer range projects. Projects that would interconnect these desirable locations that we identified through the public process. Trying to get non-motorized users connected and interconnected, not only through Bridgeville, but through some of your neighboring municipalities where there's other parks and commercial areas that people live in Bridgeville but may want to walk to the shopping center over in Collier Township. Over the past year, we held 2 public meetings, and we also had 3 steering committee meetings. Joe, Nick, Bill, Justine, and Joe were all on the steering committee. And it came to the meetings, and the input was great. And I recognize some of the public here. There was a few people in the audience that were also at some of those meetings. We had an online wiki map where it was open to anybody that they could get on there and provide their feedback. So I think we learned a lot of things through COVID that we were able to do in person, but also these wiki maps online where people would just go in and put needles and pins down where they want to go to and from in the borough. And really the crux of the whole thing, I see people have the draft report with them, it really came down to the maps and the tables on pages, I want to say 33 through 37. I won't go into detail through them now. We can circle back to that if anybody has any questions to that when I'm done here in a moment. Just to say that the table of projects and implementation things that we came up with on pages 35 to 37, it's a menu of projects. It's not meant to be any type of ranked order or a preference. Again, this is not a funding document. This isn't a comprehensive plan. This isn't a long-term plan that's committing the borough to anything. It's meant to be a list of projects varying in size from stop signs all the way up to building regional trails that as time goes on, council and planning commission and the residents can look to incorporate in things like the comprehensive plan that's being worked on right now, and then your capital improvement budgets as you move forward into different years. As we know, funding changes all the time. One of the things we did, I think we gave a pretty comprehensive list of funding resources, things that Joe can work on with council to look for funding opportunities. But that stuff changes all the time. Every year there's new funding programs and different, as different administrations come in and out, there's different priorities. So again, the projects on there weren't ranked in any type of order. We did come up with a couple specific things that the committee wanted to look at. Two of them were like a gateway treatment on Route 50 there, kind of out in front of La Bella Bean and the Jackalope area. You're coming in from that big 4-lane section, and now we're building a big 7-lane bridge into a 4-lane section, and within 1,000 feet you're right in downtown Bridgeville. Something to try to get people to say, this is a different place, maybe slow down and pay attention a little more. We looked at things like a Chartiers Creek Greenway project, because I know there were a few residents that showed up that were avid trail users, and there's nothing stopping Bridgeville. I mean, they wouldn't be able to take it on themselves, but it'd be more of a regional project with Allegheny County or neighboring municipalities coming up with some kind of regional trail system, linking different areas, not only in Bridgeville, but the neighboring communities. One of the things that came back again was, I know when the library was built, there was talk of an overpass there. We ran through those numbers again and took another look at that. Of course, those are big ticket items. So again, small projects like gateway treatments here in downtown to some type of bike pedestrian overpass connecting the library to the downtown area. And then, of course, we came up with a list of education and enforcement type recommendations too. There's a number of things you can do, citizens hotlines and websites where, if street lights are out, I don't know what kind of formal process you have, but maybe there's something you can do specifically for click here for your bike and ped concerns, or, if you see a stop sign knocked down, things like that, that's pretty common. But there were other things too, ideas that maybe the planning commission or council could see what other communities are doing, things like passport to fitness, walking tours, interpretive boards, kind of like the sculptures that I've seen around town. There's things you could work these kinds of things in, change it up every year, work walking tours into this stuff, just things to get people out and about and walking. I know some of these recommendations are long-term things, permanent infrastructure that we're talking about, curb ramps and bulb outs and things, but there could be annual programs like, hey, every year we come up with another walking route idea for something that Bridgeville can do to encourage people to walk. And I do want to say, I did see a few weeks ago, the chief, I saw that there were some pedestrian-focused enforcement running down on Washington. That was kind of the buzz of one day over at the rail yard. So people were coming in talking about it, so people saw it, and I think, when you have a buzz like that, I applaud you. It was a good effort, and things like that need to be kept up. People need to be reminded all the time that, there's more than just cars on the road. There are bikes, peds, little kids crossing down there. Again, really at this point, I'd be happy to go into details. I think what you're here to do tonight is to, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, to adopt the plan as a council. But again, it's kind of a blueprint. And from there, it's where do you take it from here? Take projects off that list and try to implement it in your comprehensive plan. Maybe take some of the concepts and ideas that we came up with, incorporate those themes into your comprehensive plan. And then as your comprehensive plan lives and grows moving into the future, you look for those funding opportunities and grant programs where you can fund some of these priorities that you have. So that's kind of what I had in a nutshell. I mean, I didn't want to go through and line item by line item with everything, but I'm more than happy to answer any questions, discuss any items. Again, it's your plan, what the feedback we got from the committee and the community.
Do anybody have any specific questions?
I don't have a question, I do have a comment. That the thing that is, the active transportation plan is a guidance document for the community,
Right.
for the municipality and the people. So nothing that is in here, while it's guidance, is not a requirement for something that we do in the future. And we had a robust disagreement at my last planning meeting, and it was that nothing is set in stone. So it's just a high-level view.
And even some of the concepts that we came up with, these are still high-level ideas. These aren't things that you're just gonna rip a page out and say, we're doing this tomorrow. These are still ideas that you need to grow and study and engineer or plan a little bit more further detail, so.
I had the chance of repeating what you said. I think it's important for the public to know that we wouldn't do anything without acting as a council to agree on any specific issue in here, whether it was a lighted beacon on the street or putting bump outs on the street. It would still take an act of council to do so. But we appreciate the information you guys have developed here. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Great.
Yeah,
Thanks.
appreciate it, yeah. Okay, let's move on to public comment. Now Morgan, I'm having trouble reading the last. Frazier, I mean, thank you.
Mostly just want to say some thank yous. I've made some notes, so I'm just going to refer to them. Thank you for your service to the council. I went to the Memorial Day Parade. It was wonderful. It was a really great parade. Love that. Cook's School Park movie. I went to that. That was great. Thank you. I saw a few of you here. I want to thank the police for the increased patrols on Patterson Avenue. I want to thank the borough for mowing the lawn on the property of issue last week. And I just want to bring to point a couple of issues that are still there's some vehicles, or at least one vehicle on the street that hasn't been registered since 2020, and it's a broken down vehicle that is part of the property of issue. I think that's about it, except I'd be remiss to say this gentleman reminded me of a topic I brought up years ago on Patterson Avenue. There's been an issue of people speeding down the road. I'm sure it's everywhere. But I brought it up years ago that it would be nice if we had a speed bump on the road. And I know that at that time, someone said it'd be an issue with snow plows, but I've driven, obviously, through the neighborhoods around here, and I've seen speed bumps that are gradual, that, you know, obviously aren't issues with snow plows. So I was wondering if we could at least, and maybe this isn't the right venue for it, but I'd just like to bring it up as a topic with the venue that it is applicable to, that it'd be nice to have a speed bump on Patterson. There's kids that live on the street, and it's been a problem in the 18 years since I've been here. Just a reminder of the topic I brought up last month is Lurie Street. It is looking kind of bad in regards to paving. But thank you all for your time, and I really appreciate everything you've done. Thanks.
If you want, excuse me, if you want to look some of those speed bumps that you just mentioned,
Yes, sir.
gradually, we put those on Ridge Street, not far from here.
Okay.
Yes. They're just for you to see.
Yeah, I'll go take a look at it on
Yeah.
Ridge Street.
And
Okay.
then it's up to.
So it is something that the borough does do.
But you mentioned those.
Okay, I'll check that out. Thank you.
We'll put it in the public safety committee.
Yeah, of course.
Take a look at it. But, Morgan, if I could say, I always tell people that no one ever comes down and tells us we're doing a really good job or thank you, whatever. Thank you, I appreciate that, and I appreciate your other comments, and we'll get on this.
I appreciate it. Thank you all very much.
Jenny Kroll.
I'm here to say the same thing. I'm a Patterson Avenue person, and last month we were down here complaining. And I want to thank Joe for getting the borough people up there to cut the grass. And I want to thank Chad for getting the police up there to do their job. So it's very much appreciated. I know it's a work in progress, but I just want to say thanks to everybody. That's all I want to say.
Thank you. Bob Fryer.
Okay, thank you. Excuse me. As you know, I'm always concerned about comprehensive the largest number of the highest income families in western Pennsylvania are right next to Bridgeville. Mount Lebanon, Upper St. Clair, Hughes Township. Average incomes over $100,000, $25,000. And Bridgeville's other neighboring communities, Collier and South Fayette, are two of the fastest growing communities in the county, as we all have seen. And the income of those families, again, is up around $90,000 to $100,000. What I'm getting at is the families in Bridgeville's income is about half of that, but that doesn't matter. I would like to see Bridgeville officials, through your comprehensive plan, become more like shopping center owners. Do things to expand our business district, which has collapsed beginning about 50 years ago, as you know. That both the Baldwin Street Planning Committee Business District and the Washington Avenue Business District because of traffic congestion. Right? And I very much would like to refer to the bridge that's been proposed over the railroad tracks between the library and Washington Avenue. I'd like to show you this. I don't want to take too much longer, but this is the post office. This is Washington Avenue, James Street, and Hickman Street. This intersection, by the way, the original comprehensive plan already includes the two Linwood Street properties in Shady and Washington Avenue. This intersection is probably the most important intersection in the community for two reasons. By the way, Hickman Street is 38 feet wide. Washington Avenue is only 30 feet wide. So you can make this 3 lanes with the two major northwest lanes going around this turn. There's a stacking lane here that does 2 things. It allows vehicles to go into a consistent left turn stacking lane and loop around Station Street and Murray Avenue to come back through the business district 2 and 3 times. And neither Mount Lebanon, Canonsburg, or Washington, PA have that advantage. The topography in all 3 of those business districts is so steep. You've been in all 3 of those communities. They don't have the advantage that we have to expand our business district because of some of these features. The other thing I want to mention to you about this important intersection is the people in the stacking lane would not only turn left so they could loop around business districts in 2 loops looking for parking spaces and so on. It allows the traffic to come over here onto James Street and get into our business, into our largest parking lot. Now, I might mention this thing. As you know, the Washington Avenue and Chartiers, as you know, the right turn corner on this corner, from what I understand, is not going to be increased as some of the drawings they gave to PennDOT and you guys. It's still required. There'll be no left turn stacking lane from Washington Avenue to Chartiers Street either. That means that cars are coming down Chartiers Street and they want to go to our central business district. It'll be a difficult turn. But what that has done, or what that is going to do, I think, is it's going to make Werner Avenue a preferred route to our biggest parking lot. And I understand you got $500,000 or something like that, am I correct, to improve that. That's wonderful. But what I was going to say, it's because of the importance of Werner Avenue and the fact that, see this dark mark there? Those are the ramps for the pedestrian people to get up to the bridge, to cross the railroad tracks and get to the library. I think personally that's a bad idea. That's going to cost us 16 parking spaces and you're gonna have a bunch of people.
That's all conceptual.
Oh, okay.
We've talked about that.
Okay, well, I want to mention one other idea to you.
Where did 16 parking spots come from?
Right.
Yeah, less than that, but that big part, I'm sorry, yes.
Well, it's,
Well, that's,
very close.
maybe 8 or 9.
Well, there's 16 parking spaces.
Well, I thought it was an
there.
illustration that there wasn't any parking spots established yet.
Well, this, the positioning of these ramps for the bridge, it's going to eliminate the 16 parking spaces.
Yeah, but we're disagreeing on something.
No,
that
yes,
isn't
that's
even
good,
occurred.
that's good, I know it's just a concept, but I want to give you another idea to help with that. To take away 16 parking spaces of parking authority is not a good idea. It costs $22,000 each, is the national average to rebuild them. But one of the other things that you might consider, and I'll give you some drawings to study, this thing I'm trying to show you here is, if you, excuse me, right now, James Street's 24 feet wide. If you increase James Street to 60 feet wide, you could put 11 parking spaces here on an angle, and in the lot that I understand the parking authority is trying to buy from the doctor, so he doesn't put an office building there, which if that happens, you increase your parking lot, part of your business district and buy. Anyway, I just wanted to give you that idea. I have some drawings to show you. And that's about the other thing. The other thing I wanted to mention to you is that the other night at the Planning Commission a couple of weeks ago, members of the Planning Commission were sort of hesitant about agreeing about the bridge over the railroad tracks. And Joe mentioned to him that it was public opinion that initiated that architectural feature. That's, like to respectfully disagree with you. Through the history of this community.
No, it was public opinion.
Yeah, I know. But you're talking about a handful of people, that
That
6,000.
participated. I mean, we gave the entire community the opportunity to participate.
Exactly. Well, that's true. They were not there. But what the other thing I'm trying to do is, you guys, in your comprehensive plan, I hope that you keep your two-way couple so that you can get a 4-lane wide Washington Avenue through Bridgeville's business district, and that you keep, and you get the county to extend the 4-lane Bowricker Road through our business district. The economics are, I'm pleading with you guys. All right, thank you for your time.
Well, if I could just say something, against my better judgment, but
Sure.
you made a comment about neighboring communities and their incomes.
Yes, right.
You can't compare Bridgeville with South Fayette and Collier. Most of the buildings out there are brand new, big giant houses. They've got acres and acres and square miles of space to keep building.
But out of
Bridgeville's stuck. I mean, we got what we got. But you can't say they're making $250,000 a year out there, we're making something. That's just the way it is.
I disagree with you, Joe. Bridgeville is not stuck.
What are you gonna tear down?
Excuse me, let me
No,
respond to your comment.
I've been listening to you for 15, 20 years now. It's the same stuff, especially about the neighboring communities. There's just no friggin' way. Go at Nevillewood. What do those houses cost? What do those people?
Joe, 4 and 5 different city planners.
Well,
Let me, do I get to respond to your comment?
Maybe.
What you just said isn't true. 4 or 5 different city planners have told Bridgeville how they can expand their present central business district to the east through Shady Avenue in that area. And I've seen the drawings from Beckman and the Allegheny County's Panhandle Planning Commission. The thought that you can't do anything major to improve the economic foundation in Bridgeville is in your head. Exactly what you described is a mistaken mindset.
10, 15 years ago, I got some plans, which a 4-way couple were about building high-rise buildings,
Yeah.
shopping centers.
Yeah, those weren't my plans.
I don't know who they were, but that's still not.
Let's move on. This is, we have gone through these things.
I'll tell you what, you guys can make Bridgeville into anything you want to make it into. Don't feel restricted by being non-aggressive. Okay, thanks for your time.
All right, thanks.
You know, I appreciate it.
Courtney.
Oh, sorry.
I guess, a formal complaint. There's a neighbor at the corner of Chestnut and Bank Street who I believe is a known entity within the borough as far as being a nuisance property. The grass is very high. There's like knee-high weeds all along the sidewalk. I know lots of our neighbors on our street are very concerned about it. We've even gone down and pulled weeds and tried to help as best we can. I love the mindset. I don't complain unless I'm able to, I try to do something to help. If there's something that we as neighbors can do, can go and help cut the grass or pull weeds or whatever. I just didn't know what the status of that property
So-
was and where we.
Obviously, we're neighbors, so I came down one day and Joe's cited this guy actually a couple of times, right? And I came down and I said, he's up there cutting the grass, this is good. Well, he cut the grass, but he left all the trimming is probably it's higher than US Open grass right now. I mean, it is high. And so, I mean, he's a repeat offender. I mean, I would encourage you to go up and take a look at him.
It's already been done.
Okay.
He's been cited again. So within the past week, a citation was issued again, and the Public Works will end up cutting the property that we did last year. And then we'll send him a bill, and if we don't pay him, the property. But feel free to call my office during the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but that's what's going on.
Yeah.
And if there are other, just about properties that are in, if it's a matter of someone physically is unable to cut their grass, I'm all about being a neighbor and, if there's someone elderly or infirm, whatever, we've offered to, cut people's grass. So if that is an issue that comes about that you find with someone, maybe we can get a group together of concerned neighbors that would go and help cut. I mean, just try to help in any way. I appreciate your
Yeah, thanks. It is, and it's just more than the grass. I mean,
There's garbage.
Newspapers.
Yeah. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Courtney. John Dunn.
I was just wondering about the Corner Street project. It's got penciled in for any time.
Yeah, Kevin, can you share where we're at with that? I know we're doing some drilling down on the Union Street project.
Yeah, it's gonna be bid, Union Street, also needs a wall, and so they're gonna be bid together. And we're just waiting on the plans from the geotech. But he has completed, the drilling, I believe, and then we're working on the design, so.
Okay. I think I saw bidding in July, expected bidding in July. Did I see that?
That's the anticipation, so.
Yeah. With construction this year then?
Yeah, we've been seeing, probably 3 or 4 months on materials coming in, so they'll probably build it over the winter. The wall itself, so. Still takes a while to come in.
Yeah.
Is it still moving?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, it was more stocky falling in down here. Okay.
If we had another landslide, and we're just on the land, that's what's going on.
All right, thanks.
All right, thanks, Sean. Pasquale Blasio.
Hello, thank you. So, we are a walkable community because we have places to walk to. And we, at least I had high hopes with the active transportation study. And Mike, thank you for staying around. I hope you don't regret it. I think that you could have done better. Okay? There's more that we could have put in there. There's more that you could have put in there, especially on some details. The community has for many years looked at a number of those, at a number of the items that are front and center in the plan. As you noticed when you came to the first meeting, the community had some comments as to what was needed. And
Hey, Pat,
yeah, sure, go ahead.
I just appreciate you addressing
Sure.
us. I don't want you
Okay,
to
well,
challenge
I mean,
the.
yeah, I get it. I'll be glad to address it
Okay.
to council. Okay? And I recognize that this is an idea, a concept, nothing's in stone, one of the things I've seen, and if you've gone to some, communities that are regretfully not as well off as others, put it that way. You oftentimes find projects that you look at and say, how did they do that, or why did they do that? And if you look through the history, it's somebody drew a circle, said there's a problem, and then they came up with a solution in that circle, okay? And it works, it ticks off all the little boxes. It meets all the requirements. But it doesn't do anything for the community, it spends a lot of money. Okay? And while the borough of Bridgeville didn't spend any money with getting this proposal, a grant that was really important came through, and that money was spent. And I think that we could have gotten more from that grant. Part of it was that it started off doing a lot of cookie cutter stuff to find out what we needed. Maybe there wasn't enough money left at the end to come up with ideas like how to make a trail, a walking trail to connect from Upper St. Clair into South Fayette through Chartiers Park.
This project was never designed to
Perhaps
do
it
that.
wasn't designed. And that's what I'm saying. Maybe it wasn't designed to do that, and therefore there's no money to continue it on. Okay? And so the reason I'm looking at Mike is I think that there's more work to be done here. Okay? You know, personally, I think some of the concepts, especially the library concept, is very narrow in its scope. I said this at the meeting, and I was a little disappointed that there wasn't anything incorporated to improve on it. There are ideas as to how to improve on it, but we need some consultants that will help us to figure out how to get the important things that we as a community are asking for to link our county. So I think that that's something that we should look at expanding on. I recognize this is going to be moved, seconded, and all in favor is aye. Okay? I would almost prefer if, you know, we continued on with the process and maybe even put in some more effort, maybe even some more money to further develop it. So that's item one. Item two. Item two is with regards to the exploratory resolution on Station Street. This one sort of caught us a little off guard. There's no question, I don't have any, put this carefully. If you're going to look at no parking there, fine. But you've also included no stopping. That, I think, is a movement too far and detrimentally affects the residents and the businesses on Station Street. Because not to be able to stop on Station Street not only prevents people from loading and unloading that go to the eye doctor, that go to the other apartments there, it also stops people from loading and unloading that go down to Washington Avenue. Okay? Oftentimes, to avoid stopping on Washington Avenue, you try and stop on Station Street. Let somebody off, go around the corner. There is a beautiful little sign in front of Sammy's and a couple of other places in the borough. Say, hey, only 15 minutes stopping here? I think that would be a far better idea to try for 90 days than to try nobody, no time, don't even pause here.
It defeats the purpose of the whole public safety idea there. Of if you allow someone to stop there, they're parking there.
Okay.
And that's what, and we're trying to eliminate that to allow the traffic, all the congestion coming from,
Right.
you know.
And this is a perfect time to...
Yeah, the whole roundabout, we're getting that traffic now, you got Chartier Street construction. I'm not kidding you, I come down Bank Street and it's backed up around the bend towards the hair salon, you know. So the whole idea is if you have one person stop right there, why even have no parking? That doesn't make sense. If we're gonna do it, we need to do it.
And if I can I help to clarify as well, maybe the chief can help me out as well. And I actually called Joe and suggested we add stopping with respect, interpretation wise. Stopping does not mean you cannot pause, you cannot let somebody out of the car.
When my brother was in high school, his lawyer beat a ticket because he was sitting in the car and not outside the car for 15 minutes, and technically it wasn't parking. So
Yes,
the police
that's
know what
standing.
stopping is a technical matter is versus pausing, let somebody out of the car.
You need a bit, okay? And the morning time, you know, between, I think, what is it, 8? I remember, 6 to 9?
I've actually seen it backed up to Bank Street as late as, 8 o'clock, close to 8 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, yeah. By the way, I've seen it backed up to Bank Street many times. I come down, I do this. I live this, okay? I live this, I drive it, I work in it, I'm right there, okay? There's a balance. I sit in that line. When it goes around the corner, I sit in it. But there's not supposed to be anyone parking there right now in those early morning hours. There's not supposed to be anyone. Okay? And again, this is a great time to try. Because as you said, we're going to have the construction on Chartier Street,
It
et cetera.
started, yeah, I mean, the issue has started.
And also, we've already pulled the parking off of there. You're not really able to park.
And it appears that you're saying that these people have nowhere to park.
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm
But
not
that-
talking
but
about
it's-
parking.
Pardon me?
I'm not speaking about parking. I'm talking about the loading and unloading, the 15-minute. That's what I'm talking about, is the narrow band to be able to get out of your car, take something in, come back, and leave. When you have somebody parking there for 5 hours, it's ridiculous.
I know, I see
Okay.
it. I see employees of those businesses parking there all day.
Oh, exactly, and why? There's no reason. There are plenty of other places for them to park for 3 hours. It's the people that stop for 15 minutes that you're not making any allowance for.
15 minutes is parking.
I understand,
But for
15
the
minutes.
technicality
okay.
of sitting in the car,
Ex-
and that's what the intent was.
And I know where you're trying, I think I know where you're trying to go. I'm trying to suggest that you put a little wiggle room in here, okay? So that people can do what they need to do, that residents can unload their groceries, that people can move. It doesn't happen that often. But what you're now putting is a combative role that you will not park for any moment at all.
There's no intentions of being combative here at all.
Well-
If it's perceived that way, it's not because it's meant that way at all.
I-
We're trying to free traffic, we're not gonna resolve it. We're trying to mitigate it.
And I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, okay.
I'm agreeing with you that we want to try and mitigate it. What I'm recommending is that you put the same sign that's in front of Sammy's on Station Street.
And I'm telling you that that's gonna deter from what we're trying to accomplish.
I know, but I'm saying you should take some of the balance, but not all of it.
I think that, Council, I'll let anyone speak if they want. The discussion we had was to try to prepare for the traffic issues that are compounding now because of all the construction. If we allow parking there, and I know we're gonna argue about whether parking or stopping or standing, we're eliminating what we're trying to accomplish. No one's saying that this is going to be that way forever, all right? It's a 90-day conceptual, thing to try to get through some of this construction.
Council President, does it have to be all or nothing?
Well, in this case, I think it does. I mean, because you're gonna block a lane, and the whole idea was to open that lane so you have a right turn and a left turn.
But that lane is open.
It's not all the time, Pat.
I know that. There are times when it's not, and that's why there's no parking at all in the morning when there's an activity. But I think I've made my case. That's, heading out there. I think that was pretty much. Thank you.
Thanks. Well, thank you. Now, let's move on to regular order of business here. I need a motion to approve the May 9th, 2022 regular meeting minutes as submitted.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. I need a motion to approve the June 2022 bill list. I'll move. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. I need a motion to approve the June 17th, 24th, July 1st, and 8th payrolls. moved.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. I need a motion to adopt resolution number 2022-9, a resolution of the Borough of Bridgeville, County of Allegheny, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, accepting the Activating Bridgeville Active Transportation Plan as prepared by the Bridgeville Active Transportation Plan Steering Committee and facilitated by the Traffic Planning and Design Incorporated.
So moved.
I'll second.
Well, I have a small remark on that. Well, we discussed that before. The talk of the bridge of the library, this is nothing new. It's going on for the last 5-6 years. I don't like at the very beginning being involved with the library. At the time I was the chair of the library, I suggested then, 5 years ago, not to do that zigzag, but it isn't a comprehensive plan. That's only a concept. My idea, it's always been, either the parking authority built another, more parking, a parking lot in a bridge, just like you see in Kaufman, that you see in Mercy Hospital, you see the bridge. That way it'll be, it costs money, or not that elevator. This has been my idea in the last 5 years. That zigzag, I don't like it at all, even though it's a concept. That's fine, we know that. Thank you, that's all I have.
Let me add that there are a lot of things in that active transportation plan that some people like, some people dislike, some are wishy-washy. That's what it was meant. It was meant to solicit ideas and you know, yeah, put things on the table for discussion, prioritize, plan, you know, and that's what we're voting on. We're voting on the ideas that have been brought to us, and they're in an organized fashion.
And the other thing is, correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, but we need to lay a groundwork in order to go out and get some identified grants and obtain some money to do the projects, correct?
Yeah, I feel the plan, as we have it, is very implementable, and it's something that we can use as a tool for the next 10, 15 years to chisel away at it. And we have an implementation plan, committee from maybe planning commission and council, that we prioritize the budget season and what we want to do. But it's very doable. The stuff that you see in there, that isn't something that we're just going to go on the bookshelf. I'm very confident that we can start whittling away at this. And some of that work does require additional planning and additional engineering, but it's a very usable document.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes. I need a motion to adopt resolution number 2022-11, a resolution of the Borough of Bridgeville seeking a banner permit from PennDOT to hang a banner over Washington Avenue for Day on the Avenue 2022. So moved. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. That is this Saturday, by the way. Yeah. Looking for a cold, dry day. I need a motion to adopt resolution number 2022-12, a resolution of the Borough Council pursuant to the Bridgeville Borough Code of Ordinances, Chapter 15, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Part 1, General Parking Regulations 105, experimental regulations designating and establishing an enforceable temporary no parking, no stopping zone for a period of 90 days on both sides of Station Street from Washington Avenue to Dewey Avenue. I'll move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. I need a motion to adopt resolution number 2022-13, a resolution of the Borough of Bridgeville, Allegheny County, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, seeking grant funding under the Allegheny County Sanitary Authority Green Revitalization of Our Waterways, which is called GROW, program to fund a project that proposes to reduce the sewer overflow at the Alphasan point of connection in the C-54 McLaughlin Run sewer shed. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Need a motion to accept and implement the delinquent garbage recycling fee collection policy per the recommendation of the Finance Committee. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Do we want to discuss that at all? Do you want to, with the changes for?
To be honest, I mean,
just makes it a written law.
I need a motion to adopt resolution number 2022-14, a resolution of the Borough of Bridgeville, County of Allegheny, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, establishing fees for the filing of applications, permits and licenses for the borough. Note that the fee schedule update to amend the delinquent garbage fee $10 per quarter from $2.65. I'll move.
I'll second.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Need a motion to concur with and request the Charlotte West Council of Governments to award contract to Myers Demolition and Excavation in the amount of $16,100 for the demolition of a structure at 105 Presley Road. And note that the project is fully funded by an Act 152 demolition grant.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, years.
I need a motion to accept the 2021 audit and financial statements.
I'll move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. I need a motion to ratify the execution of change order number 1 for the Baldwin and Margaret Streets demolitions that removes 404 Margaret Street from the contract. Note that it results in the contract decrease of $26,000. Contractor is stash contract.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, as we discussed in the general conversation before, I'm glad that I can vote yes for this because I got the explanation from the manager and I'm comfortable on what I heard. So it's been meeting with the owner and the manager and said you know, but it'll be a close on Wednesday on this and said. And Mr. DeBrescia can very well call Joe and our manager and get this thing clear once for all. It is clear.
For 404?
For yes.
404, yes. We
Yeah,
close
for
on
404, I'm speaking.
We close on 404, scheduled for Wednesday.
Wednesday, right.
And then we've already had communication with the contractor and Gateway Engineers to have another change order to put it back in the contract.
Exactly. Thank you.
The problem was when the contract was executed, the borough didn't own that property yet. When the project was out to bid, we were to close on that property before the time of the council meeting, and the closing got postponed. So the contractor, essentially, we didn't want to award a contract to a property we didn't own. So that's really the point.
So it's
Basically a formality.
Yes, it's one thing, it's out and in and out, if you will call it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor? Or I need a motion, I'm sorry.
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor? Opposed? That motion passes. I saw there's 2 houses down, right?
Yeah, and we're working on the third one today.
Okay.
That's out, that's better now.
Yeah, third. You guys moving quick.
He said it'd be about 2-3 weeks, and then we should be done.
Just informationally, assuming it does close as we anticipate, then you'll have a motion next month ratifying the change order that puts it back in, by which time it will be done.
Okay, I need a motion to request the Chart West COG to disperse payment number 1 and final in the amount of $22,000 to Steel Nation Environmental Incorporated and authorize the execution of change order number 1 that decreased the contract amount by $11,000 based on final measurements of in-place quantities and work completed for the catch basin replacement project. Note that the project was fully funded by a CDBG year 47 grant and replaced the catch basins on Station Street and Darby Way. So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Need a motion to authorize the purchase and installation of a playground and swing set at Chartiers Park from Sports and Recreation Associates LLC in the amount of $239,000 at State CoStar's contract pricing.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Is there a time frame?
They were hoping this summer.
Yeah, probably late this summer. Opposed? Motion passes. That stuff is not cheap.
Yeah. But it's a fairly large.
Yeah, it's not just all
This
moving.
is, yeah, we presented this last year at a council meeting. It's a large place.
Yeah, very nice. I need a motion to accept the planning commission due May 2022 real estate tax collector report.
I'll move. Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Need a motion to acknowledge receipt of the May 2022 treasurer's report.
I'll move. Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. And I need a motion to accept the May 2022 police report.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right, we'll move on to committee reports. First, under administration is Nick. Nick is absent. Joe, you have anything to add? Finance, Joe Verducci.
Okay, as we talked about last month, Joe's been busy filling out grant applications. We completed or submitted another county trail development fund grant for the Chartiers Park Fitness Trail that we want to complete. We also are in the pre-bid meetings for the Warner Street slope, which we already talked about. The recycling performance grant is completed and been submitted to the DEP. And the GROW grant has been, will be submitted, seeking for another project as well. Other than that, we've, as we've talked about, we had the FEMA flood mitigation buyout program, had a couple insurance claims that we went through. And I like this one. Glad we mentioned this. The borough received first place special recognition from the State Association of Boroughs for their annual year-end report, 2022 budget report. So I know Joe works very hard to make sure that it's an item that all residents have and can read and understand and go through and understand what's going on in the borough. So congrats to you, Joe. Thank you very much for putting that together. In addition, those items are new resident packets were sent out, and we had some different documentation for our right to know request that we submitted. That's an awful lot of stuff this month, but all good things, especially all those grants are applying. Fingers crossed that we can do more things with the assistance of not making the residents pay more. So thank you. Any questions?
Thanks, Joe. Parks and Rec, Joe Clausen.
Sir, talking to Cheryl Valentino, the shelter rentals are going pretty well this year. A lot of the prime times and days are going, so if you're interested in getting a picnic shelter for a party or whatever, be a good idea to start getting the reservations in there if you want them. Cameras are up and running in McLaughlin Run Park, and they're going to be going in pretty soon up at Cook School Park, so we should be pretty secure next month or so, I hope. It was mentioned about the movies up at Cook School Park. I went up there, and it was a very good time. I've estimated there was about 45, 50 people there. Parking wasn't that much of a problem. One guy had to park in the grass. So, it was, I guess we were trying it out. I would suggest we keep on doing the movies through the summer. And it was brought to my attention that there's an issue with, evidently these people have to pay a license fee or whatever to get these movies. It's like $200 a pop. The only movie that doesn't have to pay is McClintock with John Wayne, which I would pay for. But it's been taken care of. So I was talking to Joe and Bruce, I think, brought it up. We're thinking about maybe the borough funding one of these licensing fees. I think it's about $200.
$250.
The people that run around the borough, and they solicited funds to take care of the first one, and hopefully she said she was willing to do that. I'll give them a couple of months. It was worth it. It was very nice. You could see the screen, you could hear it, and it didn't cause any fuss with the neighborhood up there. So I think it's a good deal. The next movie would just like, I guess, make a motion, maybe the borough, pay for one of the licensing.
It's $250.
$250?
What, was there a vendor or anything up there? I know there was talk about something.
No, that's, well, I didn't really bring it up. I was talking to Joe. Well, it would be nice, but where we go, I don't know what kind of it. You gotta bring a little push cart or something, yeah, some big truck or something like that, I don't know. Plus, what if somebody else wants to do it?
I
It's something.
totally agree, and I thought you could maybe get some of the money that's needed from
Yeah,
that
yeah.
one vendor of the week or vendor of the movie or whatever.
Yeah, the thing with that too, a lot of people brought their own snacks. So I mean, it's like, I don't know if it even would be profitable for a guy to move in up there. There's 50 people, I mean, I don't know, that's something to discuss.
How far down the road was the parking?
No, they were all in the parking lot, except one car was in the grass by the one shelter.
So there was a lot of people that walked?
Could be, yeah, I know my neighbors, well, I would have walked, I'd have 2 minutes of chairs to carry and stuff. My walking days are sort of over, I think, but,
Those are very good.
so
Yeah.
some people walk.
Okay.
I thought it was a good deal.
That was my concern, was that, number one, was it on too late and parking and the residents around there, it doesn't sound like that was the case.
It wasn't
at all.
that loud, and I think we were out there about 11, something like that. I guess the next movie will be like the longest day of the year, and then after that, it'll start getting darker earlier, so. I don't know, I think it's a good thing.
So there's a motion on the floor from
I'll
Joe
second.
to pay, we got a second. I think, Don, talking about $250. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Can I make one comment?
Yeah.
I think we should go ahead, but I think that should be like whenever they're kind of dry and soliciting for the movies, maybe then continue with the soliciting businesses and so forth, and then if they get caught in the jam one of the movies, then we would pay for it. You know, you don't want to pay for it and then they don't go out and solicit the different businesses or try to find that one. Just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, an alternate view, I'm thinking if you keep going back to the same folks every month, that might not be, create a break. So
Wendy's been going up, I've seen her several times. She came to us, we took care of one,
I mean, there's more, originally somebody said it was 4 movies, there's about, I think there's 8.
but, 2 of them.
That's working out.
I think one ain't gonna kill us.
Well, I'm not opposed to paying, I just,
That it, Joe?
That's all I got.
Any questions for Joe? All right, thank you. Parks are looking good. What's the, pay,
I'm hoping this month.
Yeah.
It's just when Bailey finishes up at her for St. Clair, they're coming here. They didn't give us a start date, but we had our pre-construction meeting, and they were planning for June.
Following up my guardrail and everything after. Public Works,
Thank you. Well, as we say every month, a lot of things goes on in Bridgeville, and thanks to all of us, the engineer, the manager, just everything was very well. You have the report of the most important thing that's happening in-house, and of course, show to the public what's done. But we have here the street sweeping begin to perform that Thursday, Wednesday of each month in the business district. Public Works can create concrete pad and assist the public art of Bridgeville install the sculpture, which the last sculpture was placed June 6th of this year, August. One thing I want to emphasize here, you may notice that we are painting the line. Normally we paint it always when the school opened. Joe and I, it was just idea, and I agree with him 100%. We did it now, it looks nice, instead of the way that the whole season, it looks beautiful right now. When it's all paint, if it is some touch up, you know, at the school open, we could do that. But at least we have all the line, all, everything is painted, crosswalk and everything. But right now we need that to look good. That's all I have.
Thank you. Any questions for anybody? Okay, public safety, Bruce.
I don't have any.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Bruce? All right, Mayor, Betty Cope.
May 28th, we attended the Eagle Scout ceremony for Kyle Hinderleiter, who did the Ring of Fire at McLaughlin Park, and happy to have our council president Henderson and our councilman Jaselski and Colosimo were also attending to congratulate the young man. On June 4th, I attended dedication of the memorial stone from American Legion Post 54, and Father Muraco took part. Also, Senator Devlin Robinson was the speaker, and in attendance was Tom Doerr, our Allegheny County councilman, and representing our representative Anita Kulik was her husband Joe Kulik, because she had some other engagements. 2 o'clock that afternoon, I attended another Eagle Scout program at Bethany Presbyterian Church for Gunnar Del Rosso. He completed the grounds around Bethany Presbyterian Church for his Eagle Scout program. Again, Senator Robinson was there to make senatorial presentation to him, and also Glenn Schiller for the Rotary Club. Tomorrow is June 14th, Flag Day. Knights of Columbus are having service at Holy Child, 7 o'clock p.m., and I'm speaking, so don't everybody rush to get here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Any questions for the Mayor? Police Chief Chad Kim.
Thank you, Council President. Apologize for the lack of police report this month, but the COVID bug has struck us again. My administrative assistant's been hit with it, amongst another officer. We welcome this month the hiring of part-time police officer Zach Morris. Along with that came the resignation from part-time officer Rich France, who resigned due to accepting a full-time position at another department. Richie served us for many years, was a good officer, and sad to see him leave. This week, we will be passing out flyers, probably after it dries out, hopefully by Wednesday, about Community Day and the road closures and streets will be affected. The detour route that we'll have set up through town will be Hickman Street to Hickman Street to Church, across on straight down Gilbert to Murray, back to Bower Hill Road, because Washington Avenue will be closed from Bower Hill Road to Hickman Street starting at 6 a.m. on Saturday till probably about 10 p.m. So we'll have signage put out. Also, Station Street will be closed from, I believe, Shady all the way down to Railroad Street, so traffic will have to detour around that also. Aside from that, obviously it's been in the news, we had about 15 cars entered last weekend over a period of 2 or 3 nights. We weren't the only municipality that was hit. There was probably between 8 to 10 other municipalities with an organized ring of, we believe, are mostly juveniles. They hit all the surrounding boroughs as far out as Uniontown and also Smith Township. The bottom line to this is, out of the cars that were entered, all 15, I'm certain were unlocked. I know we've had some people swear their cars were locked, but no alarm was set off, and there was no sign of forced entry. Aside from that, in all 8 to 10 of the other jurisdictions, same story. Not one was forcibly entered. So this can be prevented. Keep your cars locked. Don't leave your keys in your cars, because 2 of ours ended up stolen. They would steal cars that had keys in them, drive to another jurisdiction, dump the car, steal one there, go to another jurisdiction, dump the car, steal one there, and just made a giant circle. So again, keep everything locked up. It's not to downplay the incident that happened, but again, these cars aren't being forcibly entered. I have some statistics here to pass out at you from the pedestrian safety detail that we did on May 20th. think the gentleman spoke of it earlier. We had 50 total contacts that day. We spent time at the intersection of Washington and Station Street, Washington Avenue down near Bergs and Castaways, monitoring those crosswalks. We finished up on Bower Hill Road at the Dairy Light, that crosswalk. In total, we issued 39 citations, 23 of which were for drivers driving through crosswalks when pedestrians were in the crosswalks. The other citations, the other 16 were for various other violations, running red lights, no inspections, driving suspended, no insurance, and whatnot. We also warned 9 pedestrians for committing crosswalk violations. The majority of those came in the area of Station Street. Pedestrians didn't want to wait for the cross signal to come on, or else they would cross outside of the crosswalks, try to go diagonally, and we can't do that, so we educated them on that matter. And we issued 2 written warnings to other drivers. So, summing this up from my observations as I was there, we have the same issues that we're going to be dealing with at Washington and Station Street. I believe the drivers are focused on the lights. They're trying to beat the lights because they're stuck in traffic and they want to get home. The pedestrians also don't want to wait for the crosswalk sign to come on. As you get down near Bergs and Jackalope, obviously we don't have traffic control devices there, so the drivers have to be more cautious, and so do the pedestrians. The pedestrian just can't step into the street in front of a car. You have to wait till it's clearly safe to do so. And when a pedestrian is in the roadway established and safe to do so, if they've crossed one lane, they're going into the other lane. The cars are still not permitted to go through that crosswalk on the other side of the road until the pedestrian is safely on the other sidewalk. A lot of drivers didn't seem to understand that. When we finished up down here at the Dairy Light, that's probably where we had the most violations. Now, something to keep in mind though, we had a lot more pedestrians on the road than normal because we had undercover police officers dressed in plain clothes, and we just kept sending back and forth through the crosswalk. So of course the numbers are going to be high because we had a lot more people out. But I think all in all it went well, and hopefully it has a positive impact on the walking community in town.
Is that something you do like every 6 months, or?
This is probably it for this year. This was grant money attained from the state. That's through the same program that we do DUI checkpoints with. And Mount Lebanon approached me with the idea, and we said, you know what, let's throw it all in one day and try to make it happen. And we were fortunate enough to do so. If they can get funding next year, hopefully they're open to coming back here to town to address the problem.
And then do you do it in Mount Lebanon too, or is it kind of one of those shared things?
They came to me and they felt this was a target area, and by chance with everything that we had going on with the efforts to make this a more walkable community, the timing was right. And I hope that the lieutenant from Mount Lebanon who's in charge of this sees that, hey, this was a productive detail, we got a lot of results, and hopefully we can do it again next year. No guarantees, but hopefully we can do it. We also finally got our traffic speed timing device that we may have seen attached to some poles in town. It's a radar device that lets the traffic know how fast they're going. The initial placement of that sign was on McLaughlin Run Road down near Coolidge Street. We clocked a total of 15,145 vehicles in the time that it was up. And the average speed in that 25-mile-an-hour zone was 27.65 miles an hour. We had, the maximum speed was 50. In that range from 41 to 45 miles an hour, there were 74 vehicles out of 15,000. There were 15,059 under 40. The speeds of 46 to 50, we had 12 vehicles driving that fast. We didn't have any over 51 miles an hour in that time. That's not bad for 15,000 vehicles. We then moved the sign to Bank Street up near, I think it was 1083 Bank Street. In the time that it was there, we clocked 27,002 vehicles. The average speed, and keep in mind this was in a 35-mile-an-hour zone, the average speed was 27.35 miles an hour out of 27,000 vehicles. The maximum speed was 52 miles an hour. 895 of the vehicles were under 40, and the speed from 41 to 45, there were 96. From 46 to 50, there were 10, and there was one that traveled above 55 miles an hour. Again, not bad numbers for 27,000 cars. Lastly, we had the sign placed at 770 Bower Hill Road. In the time that it was there, we clocked 35,986 vehicles. These were going outbound, and the average speed was 25.86 miles per hour. The highest speed was 50. From the times that we clocked, there were 35,950 going under 40 miles an hour. From 41 to 45, we had 27 cars. From 46 to 50, we had 9 cars, and we didn't have any over 50 miles an hour. Again, relatively low number. I'm not saying there's not speeding issues on these roads. Obviously, we are getting some speeders, but ordinance people seem to think it is. And granted, you know, these are placed for probably 10 days at a time and locations. It's currently on Presley Road. Once we move it from there, I'm not sure where it'll go, but we'll eventually make the cycle around again and try to get some traffic in the opposite direction. Now, it might not always be able to be in an ideal spot because there are factors and angles of how you have to have this sign set up to maximize its potential and its efficiency.
Is 35 miles an hour the highest speed limit on back there in most?
Yes, it's 35, majority of bank is 35. The lower portion is 25 miles an hour. And one of the issues we have is, and there's a lady I've told this to 100 times, she doesn't seem to want to listen. When you have a reduction in speed limit from 35 to 25, or for any amount with that matter, you have to allow 500 feet before you can begin enforcing it. And when you're coming down Bank Street, where it starts 25, there just isn't enough room for us to enforce the 25. I believe the PennDOT did a study in an effort to reduce speed on Bank Street per the borough's request, and PennDOT said no. So
But that's the highest speed limit in Bridgeville?
35, yes. Chartiers would be the next one at 30. Pretty much every other street's 25 miles an hour.
Where do you plan on putting it on Presley?
It's on Presley as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is it, there's an area there near that nursing home that's like 15, then quickly 25, you know where I'm talking?
As you go around the bend up
Yeah.
there, probably, yeah. And again, where you have a reduction, you can't do enforcement until after 500 feet. And I don't think there's 500 feet, and it goes back up to 25.
Right.
That's all I have. Oh, at Bridgeville Day on the Avenue, Saturday, we do have a limited supply of bicycle helmets we'll be passing out to children, and we also have gun locks available too.
You set that sign up on Washington, we're gonna have some foot races by the council members.
I don't know if we'll register that low.
Oh, boy. We can at least put it up for the dunk tank, right? Register out there.
Can I say a couple of things?
Yeah, sure.
One is that I've heard from a lot of residents that just randomly stop me, and thank you guys for being visible and stopping people for whatever reasons. They do appreciate it, and they do notice it.
We've identified a lot of areas of concern. You know, I mean, everybody thinks every stop sign in front of their house is the most important one in front of the borough, and I get that. And if someone makes a good effort to stop, we generally will cut them a break. It's the ones that just total disregard for stop signs. And one of the worst ones we've come to determine is on Winfield Street, Winfield to Lafayette. I mean, that's just ridiculous what we've seen going on over there. So we've been hammering that. We've also been hammering the one on Main Street, at the connector to go into Upper St. Clair. Speed, I mean, that's hit and miss all around. I will say, you know, it was pretty much part of my morning routine throughout the school bus season. After monitoring the school buses on Bank Street, I would go sit on McLaughlin Run Road. And I was nailing a speeder, at least one a day. From the time we put that sign up until even now, it's tough to get a speeder on McLaughlin Run Road. So something, whether it was a combination of the enforcement, because the other guys were also hitting it too, in that sign, that has definitely had a positive effect on McLaughlin Run Road. You know, Bower Hill, we're gonna have those issues no matter what. I mean, that's always a street. And again, it's in different areas. You know, we can only put the sign in one spot at a time, you know, where it's where it's accommodating to the sign itself, and it'll give us accurate readings. So, you know, and we've written a lot of tickets this year at the park.
People do recognize you.
Thanks.
And the other thing is, Dr., the business owner up at the Washington Avenue across from PNC Bank does recognize that the improvement of the delay of the pedestrian sign gives you 3 extra seconds for their customers to cross Main Street on Washington Avenue. She does recognize that it has helped. So.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate all that's going on there. Solicitor Tom McDermott.
Thank you. My written report. Really good.
Okay. Any questions for Tom? All right, Borough Engineer Kevin Bray.
You do have our written report dated June 8th.
Kevin, any questions for the engineer? Our Chief Ray Costanzo.
Thank you, Council President. Total call volume for the month of May was 34 calls. I am happy to report that we have 4 new certified firefighters. 2 of them are new members altogether, and 2 of them are, one of them is a junior that finished his essential program and moved to senior membership status, and the other was a probationary member that completed his. So, for those of you who don't know, we are raffling a truck. Those tickets are available by any member. We will also have the truck up at Community Day for everybody to see. Other than that, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the Fire Chief? Southbridge EMS, Dan Lee.
My report's been submitted, and otherwise I have nothing yet.
Thanks, Dan. Still seeing spikes in COVID?
A little bit out there, not as bad as it was here.
All right, thank you. Bridgeville Historical Society.
Tuesday, June 21st, program at 7:30 will be Flags of the United States presented by Shane Miller. We have no programs in July and August, so Mary Wise wishes all of you to have a safe summer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Library.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to go over a few things we have going on at the library. We just kicked off our summer reading today, so it goes from now through August 5th. There's great programs all summer long. There's a reading incentive program for kids, so feel free to stop down. We're excited about all we have going on. Not only the stuff that we've planned in-house, but we have a lot of stuff coming up with some local partners like Allegheny Land Trust, Pittsburgh Glass Center, Alcasoan, the Pittsburgh Carnegie Science Center, so there's a lot going on for all ages. We also are now offering experience kits. So with your library card, it's first come, first serve. You can come. There are 7 different kits that you can borrow to visit 9 different regional locations. Some are here in Allegheny County, some are in our neighboring counties. But essentially, you get 4 free passes for admission. You get information about the venue. And then there's some virtual materials too that you can find out. So there's places like the Heinz History Center, the Fort Pitt Museum, Meadowcroft, the Somerset Historical Center. It's a nice opportunity to, again, serve beyond the library and make things available to our community. And then most importantly, I just wanted to say thank you for the support we've received for the Story Walk. The Story Walk has been installed. I'm sure you've been updated, but the Story Walk's been installed at Chartiers Park. The official dedication is this Saturday before Community Day starts. Joe has been fantastic to work with from the borough and helping us along the way and making Public Works available to install the Story Walk and supporting us. So I can't say a big enough thank you for that. We've been working with the Rotary on it as well, and they've been great to work with. So we've really got a lot of support, and it's appreciated, and we hope you stop down to see it. And again, it's this Saturday morning. It should be at 10 a.m. that we'll be down there sort of kicking it off, and Ms. Karen will be there doing story time and different things. So it's much appreciated. And in general, I just wanted to say thank you not only for your continued support, but for really going a step further and keeping the library a priority as we look for ways to better connect with the community and best serve the needs of the community. Just speaking on behalf of the library, we're really committed to ensuring that the library is not just the library that we need, but the library that our community deserves. And so your support is vital to ensuring that and ensuring our success. So thank you.
Thank you. Parking authority, I don't see anybody here from the parking authority.
to move on to council. Again, it is a guidance document. There's nothing set in stone, and it's just recommendations as to how we can improve. Secondly was that prior to the planning committee meeting, we also have a steering committee meeting for the comprehensive plan. And we discussed the next steps. The next step is, one of the next steps is that we will, planning committee will have a booth at the Bridgeville Days. We'll be manned, I'll be there, Joe will be there, and a couple of other planning committee meetings, along with a representative from NAPCA. So we're going to do a kickoff session of asking, querying residents as to what they like about Bridgeville. There will be a questionnaire that they can fill out so that we can start getting residents' input as to what the next step should be.
Okay, fantastic. Looking forward to Saturday. Borough Manager Joe Coward.
I don't have anything other than my written report. If there's any questions?
All right. Anything under new business?
I have a few things. As we talked about, the Rotary has sponsored in conjunction with Rutland Bank a dunk tank that's Washington Avenue. Chief Costain is volunteered to be a donkey, so please bring your money. Unfortunately, fortunately we got Senator Robinson to assist and Mandy Pryor from the chamber. In order to get those people to do it, there was a reason I had to be up there too. So please bring your money. I will be obnoxious for that half hour, I guarantee it. We are looking for 3 or 4 more people. So if anybody has an interest, please talk to me. We're willing to take some volunteers. I will echo Ben's comments. Public Works did an awesome job helping us get those stations. If it wasn't for Public Works, the Rotary, with a lot of the people that really don't know how to use tools, it would have taken us a ton, much longer to put those pedestals up. So it looks great. We're very excited. Warshall Funeral Home, as well as Rowan Monuments, donated the bronze plaque that we have to commemorate Dale Miller's life. Dale was a Rotarian as well as a former councilman, worked up in Northwest Bank for years and years and years, and was heavily involved in this town. And the Rotary Group wanted to do something in memory of him. Alice, his wife, is going to be at the dedication, so she is ecstatic. When I called her to tell her, she started crying, I started crying. But it was a very, very warm feeling. I think it made her feel like her husband really did a lot for this community and how they're respecting him. So excited about the ribbon cutting ceremony at 10 o'clock on Saturday. One other thing with the chili cook-off, we have decided our date. So mark September 25th down. That will be the date of the chili cook-off. I actually talked to Chief King as well as the chief at South Van, and we may try and do something additional that talks about safety. We're talking about putting in a section up at Fairview Park, a area that we would do car seat safety as well as bike safety, and as Chief King has said, maybe even gun safety. So it's in the very infant stages, but that's something else that we thought we'd add to it. And then when you go for those safety things, hey, go have some chili. So we're excited about that program. What I would like to request is that we have a brief executive session on a legal matter at the end of the meeting, if we could, please.
Okay, anything else under new business? Okay, we can adjourn the meeting and then have our executive.
I don't believe any action being
No action.
No action.
I make a motion.
Bill, I want to ask you guys, does anybody know if the parking authority has been making any progress in acquiring that lot from the doctor who purchased it a couple years ago?
I don't know that they've made any progress. I know there's still an interest level. The last meeting I was at, there's still an interest level there, but
Because if they would put a building there, four-story building, the number of wipe out that parking lot.
yeah, we've had some increased communication with them and we've been discussing some things. Motion to adjourn. All in favor? Opposed?